Press record.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, Derek. Mayor, I'll let you know once Derek gives me the green light.
Think we're good? Just came onto my phone. YouTube, watch live now, Weathersfield Government Access Town Council meeting.
He's smiling, but I don't have a thumbs up yet.
I'm not getting a video.
We don't have a video working. Hold on.
We're live on Cox. I'll troubleshoot YouTube.
Okay, we're live on Cox. We're going to troubleshoot YouTube as we go. This is being recorded, though, so we will rebroadcast it. So we're all set to go, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for those who may be watching this if it's a later date. There are some issues with the YouTube. Hopefully we can get that fixed. In the meantime, folks that are either calling in and listening in via their phones and want to watch this later, it can be seen on channel 16 on our Cox network. This is the I'm sorry, something just came up on my computer. This is the May 3rd Town Council meeting. This is a workshop meeting. And if Councilwoman Pelletier would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And Sue is on. So Sue, if you don't mind reading the attendance for tonight.
Okay. Counselor Biggs?
Present.
Counselor Flanagan?
Here.
Counselor Forrest?
Present.
Counselor Hill?
Here.
Counselor O'Connor? Counselor Pelletier?
Here.
Counselor Pentelow?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Mazzarella?
Here.
And Mayor Rell?
I'm here. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
And before we start, we do have two proclamations tonight. Both of them are near and dear to a lot of our residents here in the town of Weathersfield. If you don't mind indulging me just for a little while, thank you for all those from the council who came out on Saturday. It kicked off an incredible event. I see Rob O'Connor and Kevin Sullivan are both on this Zoom as well. Kudos to you two gentlemen, Old Weathersfield Shopkeepers Association, the Historical Society, the Weathersfield's own Heritage Commission, and especially Peter Gillespie, our town planner, for a lot of the work that went into Bikes on Main. It's not over for those who didn't get a chance to catch it this weekend. It's an entire month. I think the planners of this are probably smarter than me when they realized that May 1st might be the best day to start this off because May is Bike Walk Month. So what a great way to kick it off with over 60 bikes on display all up and down Main Street. It's similar to the Scarecrows on Main for those who have gone to that in years past. This comes on the heels of successful Scarecrows on Main event, and it's very similar. Everybody adopts a bike or uses an old one and dresses it up as they see fit with their creative ideas, much more creative than I think I could ever do. They were outstanding to look at them. I have not gone through all of them. I've gone through some, but I actually have to take a better look at them. So again, hats off to everybody who took part in that and making it a very successful Saturday kickoff. The weather was perfect. And as I said, it does kick off Bike Walk Month, the entire month of May. So on behalf of the town, I'd like to read a proclamation for Bike Walk Month for May 2021. And Gary, I don't know if you put them up. You can put them up, or I can simply read it from the one that I have here.
Well, I had it up, but it seems to have closed. There it is. Hold on.
so folks can read along with me.
There we go.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And like I said, I read this proclamation on May 1st to kick off Bikes on Main, but for the entire month of May, I'd like to read this proclamation on behalf of the town. Whereas for more than a century, the bicycle has been an important part of our lives, or of the lives of most Americans. And whereas today, millions of Americans engage in bicycling as an environmentally sound form of transportation, an excellent form of fitness, and provides quality family recreation. And whereas the education of cyclists and motorists as to the proper and safe operation of bicycles are important to ensure the safety and comfort of all users. Whereas the League of American Bicyclists and independent cyclists throughout Wethersfield and the state are promoting greater public awareness of bicycle operation and safety education in an effort to reduce accidents, injuries, and fatalities. And whereas the town of Wethersfield recognizes the health benefits of biking and walking and the social and economic benefit of a safe pedestrian-friendly community. And whereas the town of Wethersfield, through groups like Bike Walk Wethersfield, Safe Routes to Schools, Central Connecticut Health District, Bicycle and Pedestrian Stakeholders Advisory Committee, and others, are striving to make our community more bicycle and pedestrian friendly through events such as Bicycles on Main, Bike and Walk to School Day, Bike to Work Day, Wethersfield High School Bicycle Club, Bike Fest, Step into Summer competition, and through the addition of facilities like bike racks and park benches. Now therefore, on behalf of the town of Wethersfield, I, Michael L. Rail, Mayor of the town of Wethersfield, do hereby deem the month of May 2021 as Bike Walk Month in Wethersfield, Connecticut, and command its observance to all. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the town of Wethersfield to be affixed this first day of May 2021. And again, my hat goes off to a number of stakeholders who were involved, not only in making Bikes on Main a successful event, but I know not only this council, but previous councils have worked with our bike and pedestrian safety committees, Mr. O'Connor and Mr. Sullivan, to make our streets a little bit more pedestrian friendly, wider roads or narrower roads, but with wider bike paths. Our town planner and town engineer, both Peter Gillespie and Derek Greger, have worked on those to make our streets a little bit safer. I promise you, I'm trying to get the speeds to slow down. Unfortunately, I heard from Mr. O'Connor the other day about an incident he had. It's dangerous out there, and we're trying our best to make sure not only that the bikers know the safety and we provide the safety routes for them, but motorists should know to slow down when they see either pedestrians or bikers. And obviously, it goes without saying. The bumper sticker says it all. Share the road, So please do. So it's my honor to declare the month of May Bike Walk Safety Month. So. And then following on that, this is a request from a constituent that I had. It's actually not the entire month, but May 14th is Apraxia of Speech Awareness Day. And Gary, getting Carla on?
Yep. If we could just give them a second. There they are.
Hey guys, how are you? Oh, you got rid of them. Hang on, bring them back for a quick second.
They're there, hold on.
Oh wait, I gotta
We're
see.
here. I'm just not good at this.
How are you? Welcome to today's council meeting. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for reaching out. So hopefully by reading not only this proclamation, but the governor's statement, not only those on this Zoom tonight, will learn more about apraxia of speech, but, all those residents listening in. So it is my honor to read this and provide this proclamation for Marchella. Is that how we say your name, Marchella? Very nice. It's a very beautiful name. I have never heard that name before either. So, beautiful. So, let me just, I'm getting old, so I need glasses. Can you see it up on the screen? Perfect. Well, here is a proclamation on behalf of the town of Wethersfield. Whereas May 14th marks the 9th annual Apraxia Awareness Day, during which awareness will be raised throughout Wethersfield and Connecticut about childhood apraxia of speech, a much misunderstood and very challenging speech disorder in children. And whereas childhood apraxia of speech causes children to have extreme difficulty planning and producing the precise, highly refined and specific series of movements of their tongue, lips, jaw, and palate that are necessary in producing clear and intelligible speech. And whereas while the act of learning to speak comes effortlessly to most children, those with apraxia often endure an incredible and lengthy struggle. Without early intervention, appropriate, intensive, and frequent speech therapy, children with apraxia and their families are often faced with emotional, physical, educational, and financial challenges. Whereas every child deserves a voice of speech in all aspects of communication, form, and foundation for education by enabling people of all backgrounds to comprehend and communicate more effectively, thus leading to richer and more productive lives. And whereas it is up to all of us to stand for these children and with their families in working to ensure that raising greater public awareness, addressing and treating childhood apraxia remains at the forefront of the vast effort to overcome and eliminate pervasive speech disorders. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Town Council, I, Michael Rell, Mayor of the Town of Wethersfield, do hereby proclaim May 14th as Apraxia Awareness Day and urge all residents to recognize the effort, determination, and resilience of these courageous children and families by joining the effort to combat childhood apraxia of speech. In witness whereof, I hereundo set my hand and cause the seal of the Town of Wethersfield to be affixed this 3rd day of May 2021. That is on behalf of the town. And Carla, I will get you this and an official statement from Governor Ned Lamont. State of Connecticut, by His Excellency Ned Lamont, Governor, an official statement. Whereas the act of learning to speak is something that comes effortlessly to most children, excuse me, but to those affected by apraxia must endure an incredible and lengthy struggle. And whereas childhood apraxia, CAS, or childhood apraxia of speech, CAS, is a highly misunderstood neurological disorder in children, which is both persistent and severe. And whereas apraxia causes children to have extreme difficulty learning to speak, is one of the most acute communication problems found in children. And whereas without appropriate intervention, children with CAS find themselves at high risk for secondary impacts in literacy and other school-related skills. And whereas with early intervention and frequent speech therapy, children with apraxia can learn effectively communicate through speech, and whereas there ought to be a greater public awareness of CAS to ensure wider recognition of the need for adequate speech therapy resources and other services. And whereas with support and guidance, affected children can grow into productive citizens. Now, therefore, not me, but Ned Lamont, Governor of the State of Connecticut, do hereby proclaim May 14, 2021, Apraxia Awareness Day in the state of Connecticut. So, I will get that for you as well. So, thank you so much. Did you guys want to say anything?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Evans. Thank you, Mayor Rao. We really appreciate all the, the work that you put into getting us recognized. It's huge, and we're so proud and so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Now, are you guys doing any other efforts? Is there a club or a group in the state of Connecticut that promotes awareness of this?
Yeah, so there's Apraxia Kids as one of them, and they work really closely, just spreading awareness. And this month is Apraxia Awareness Month, so daily I'm going to take to social media and try to educate a little bit about that and get the word out and hopefully get a little bit more support and more of a community for our children.
Or whatever we can do on behalf of the town, we would love to help.
I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Want to say thank you? Thank you.
How many teeth do you have? See?
That definitely doesn't help with the speech. Sure.
We've been there. Good, but the tooth fairy comes,
Love it.
Perfect. Well, great. Have a great rest of your night. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay. And then, Gary, do we have people lined up for speaking?
Yep.
And we have 2 speaking sections, and these are both back to 5 minutes each, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Correct.
And I don't know, Sue, did we have anybody write in?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so for callers, we have 860-878-4688. Again, you have to press *6 if you are muted. (860-878-4688) if you wish to speak. Okay, 860-563-6923. Oh, hold on.
Hello?
Yep, go ahead. Bob, hold on one second. The first caller did unmute. 860-878-4688?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It took me a bit to get to the *6 again. I apologize.
Not a problem.
This is Claudia Boyer, 639 Highland Street, Weathersfield, Connecticut. And I just want to reinforce what I had written and I had said at the last town council meeting. Just wanted to make sure that the council understands that people in the town that aren't, working for the government, they're not on cost of living adjustments, they're fixed income individuals. And when you end up increasing their taxes, okay, and then you have the state increasing costs, like they want to consider another gas tax that'll be passed on to the consumer, that all that does is eats more and more into the person's ability to live, because now you're paying inflation 2 ways. Now, I'm a physicist, and I probably know math better than pretty much anybody in our town, most likely, and that's taken math more than anybody. And if you do mathematics and you see the numbers are going to be quite appalling in the years coming up. You could get to a point where your debt service starts to be greater than what you're going to be taking in. And that's the fear I have for the state of Connecticut, is that, right now we spend a couple $100 million basically paying off debt with debt. Like, that's using one credit card to pay another. And so you can't have a town get into situations where, you can just continue to do inflationary pressures on an individual when outside things are also inflationary. I think that the council needs to look really, really hard at the budget, and they need to really, really understand, I think, the true effects of what are happening and what will happen in the future. I appreciate it. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer.
Okay. Now, area code 860-563-6923.
Good Good evening. This is Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I agree with what the prior speaker was talking about, Mr. Boyer. People that work for certain companies, certain organizations, get pretty good raises, and a great deal of the other people do not. And I would hope that you would bring this proposed budget below the zero increase that the town manager was talking about and presenting. I think the budget continues to be out of whack with the people that live here, and I think it needs to be reduced. I also think that there's a lot of inefficiencies we have in this town, and unfortunately, we might hear the word efficiency, but I don't think our public employees even know what the word means. Look at your shared services. Last year, the year before, a couple of years ago, you did shared services between the Board of Education, custodians in the town of Weathersfield custodian group. And did you save any money? I've asked you that at the last town council meeting. You should give us a report. What does that transition look like? Because I'll bet it does not show any reduction in any of that expenditures that used to be up against what it is today. Because government just doesn't know how to cut costs. We need to cut those costs. Also, I'd like to say that I attended the Keisha Farm presentation the day after your town council meeting 2 weeks ago, and it was interesting hearing what all these folks really would like to see on that property. One of the big things was walking trails and gardens, community-type gardens, greenhouses, that sort of stuff. And I think when I'm hearing it, it's like, well, gee, don't we own another farm, the Wilkes Farm? And what are we doing with that? Is anybody interested in doing anything with that? No. It ended up, I don't even know who takes care of it. To be truthful with you, I know you sold off a couple acres of land with the buildings, which I thought and heard that there was supposed to be some little farming operation going in there. I don't believe there is one, but the fact is nothing happened as far as the things that the folks were talking about at that Keisha Farm meeting has not happened at the other farm that the town currently owns. And we owe a lot of money on that as well. And but getting back to, I really believe you need to, we're in an ugly deal with all the money that we spent on that property, the Keisha Farm. And I really believe we need to step up and do some kind of a development in there for 55 and over kind of homes. And have a developer build the homes, and as he sells the homes, we then get our price for our building lot. And we release the building lot that way. And over the course of getting it totally developed, I believe you would see some nice money come back to pay off that $2.4 million that the prior administrations put on us. I believe we would also be looking at infinity to collecting property taxes. I think those homes are new, those homes are expensive, those homes bring in good tax money. And not that I like paying taxes, but I think that this is the best solution for that property. After listening to people speak, I believe there was one or two that said something else. And they said, why don't we put some solar panels? It was along that little stretch of land right in front of Highcrest Street. And it was like I think the way the man was talking, it was just a small area of solar panels. Well, why not solar panels on the whole place? You got 32 acres. I know that they pay, or those who put solar panels up get more money per kilowatt than what the Northeastern Eversource charges us for electric, because it's a Ponzi scheme. But it might be another idea to put in there the entire property. I heard the noise go off, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
And I noticed that Kevin Sullivan and Rob O'Connor are still on, so I didn't know, Mr. Sullivan, if you'd like to speak or if you're just listening in.
Mostly listening in, if you can hear me.
Yep, that's fine.
Yep. I thought the mayor said it very well, and thank you for his support for the opening of the Bicycles on Main. And just overall, in regards to bicycling and walking with the proclamation, we appreciate very much the support of the town council, and especially the town planner, Peter Gillespie, and the town engineer, Derek Greger. At the Bicycles on Main over the weekend, I gave away about 125 little flyers that I'd put together that tried to summarize what the town now has posted on its website for trails available to the public. I think there are 8 maps altogether now. And people were very happy to see that, and also hearing that the town is implementing the grants that they've gotten the last couple of years to improve safety at intersections and things like that. People are very happy to hear that. So thank you very much for all the support, and looking forward to continuing the progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Appreciate that. Mr. O'Connor, I don't know if you wanted to speak as well.
Just briefly, but just to echo Kevin's comments, to thank the mayor, the town, and the whole town council, this one and previous ones, and our town manager. I think it really means a lot to see your faces at events. I mean, I know it was a brief moment, but I know people were impressed, and just to see everything, Mr. Mayor, you had mentioned like the bikes being on display, but it popped in my head that it was also on display at the community, like our community spirit, to see the town come together and actually, no fights, no arguments. And it's kind of like, I think it was Tom Brown's idea, as we ease our way out of the pandemic, to be able to get outside and kind of just neutrally look at art and look at what our community can do. Kids from school and groups, and Kevin and I, we try to be bike and walk advocates, but we also teamed up with the shopkeepers and the job that they do on behalf of the town. And they're, it helps them out, their business, and hopefully they're going to do well this month. But I think the town does well, and we've talked to people outside of towns that are planning to come in to see this, and it really is it's an enthusiasm generator, and I think it also gets people on their bikes. And I do want to mention one, May 5th, which is Wednesday, is Bike and Walk to School Day. It's in the proclamation, but if you do see groups of kids, it's great to give them a pat on the back or reward them. I think we have a high rate of people sending their kids, especially in Old Weathersfield, where you can put your kid on a bike and kind of get them to their school safely. So I think that's a great sign of the community too. But just really thank you to everybody there that supports these causes. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for all you guys do in advocacy. Anybody else? Gary?
That is all I see for this part of public participation, Mayor.
Okay. Well, I don't believe we have any hearings or ordinances or resolutions. Reports from boards or commissions. Anybody have any reports? Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Senior Citizens Advisory Committee has not been meeting regularly due to the pandemic. They are, however, having their annual shredding event May 12th, 10 to 12 at the Pitkin Community Center. This is a contactless situation. They ask that you wear your masks, stay in your car. Someone will pick up the material that needs to be shredded. You don't have to get out of the car or anything. So it worked out very well last year, so they wanted to provide that service. It's free to the residents, and I think might as well take advantage of it. That's all I have on.
Thank you. Councilman Hill?
Thanks, Mayor. A couple of updates real quick. The library board I attended on April 27th. Much of it, Brooke has shared with us during our budget workshops. Most notably, they are going to be, likely the Friends of the Library will be, they still have to vote on it, but will likely be giving $5,000 to the summer reading program, as well as Brooke announced that the library will be eligible for $20,000 from the American Rescue Plan. And as she noted when we met last week, that there are some very strict guidelines on what that money can be used for. And on the April 22nd, I attended the Brainerd Noise Committee meeting, and this was quite a notable meeting. The frustration by residents was the most I had seen in my year or so of being involved with them. There were 854 complaints called into Brainerd just on noise alone from Old Weathersfield. And there's one board member who actually, I believe she and her husband were in their backyard for 12 hours and counted 151 flights in that 12-hour span over their home. So the frustration level from residents, particularly on that stretch up Main Street going into the Cove, is palpable. They really feel like that Brainerd is not doing enough beyond communicating with the flight schools to tell them, where to take off and land, stay on the river. There was discussion of perhaps doing another noise study where they'll put in meters on State and Church Street to register the noise there. But like I said, the frustration was evident, and I think we'll be hearing a lot more of this from residents in the next few months.
Okay. And I know this is a very active committee because of the situation with the flight path. I guess, Gary, this may go to you. I know we've talked to not only Brainerd, but CAA in the past, and the executive director that runs the airport. I think maybe we should, before the summer months start up, I know it's getting warmer out, more people are sitting outside. Flight schools are ramping up, more people are getting their flight lessons, their pilot's license. I think a conversation maybe between the town and Brainerd to voice our concerns maybe a little bit stronger than simply calling into the phone number to make a voicemail complaint and timestamp on when it occurs. Let's set up a meeting or sometime soon so that we could discuss this. I mean, it is getting to the point where, when I was on the committee, we were hearing complaints, but if I'm seeing this correctly, 854 complaints for the entire month of March, if I'm not mistaken. It's only going to get worse in the summer months. So if we can set up a meeting with those folks. Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else with any reports of any boards or commissions? Councilman Forrest.
Mayor, is there also a section for councilor comment separate from reports?
Well, I'm actually, I'll make a motion to open the agenda after, reports from the boards and commissions. This is a workshop meeting, our last true meeting before our April 19th budget presentation, which was a full council meeting. But our April 5th one was a workshop as well. So I will, I'll make a motion to open the agenda. I don't really know if I need to open the agenda to add a council comment section, but I will shortly.
Okay, I'll pass until that time then.
Yep. Yeah, I know. We actually discussed this because this is a workshop meeting where technically there's no comments in this one, but we hadn't spoken for a month, which was a prior workshop meeting. I just actually wrapped up 2 or 3 meetings, OPEB meeting, volunteer firefighters, pension meeting, and town pension meeting. Good news to report, and I don't know if Mike O'Neill is on the call, but all of them look not only solvent, but doing very well because of the market, stock market, and investments have been reactive to what's going on Wall Street. Of particular note, the OPEB trust, it's actually, there's 2 of them. There's the OPEB trust and then the OPEB reserve. Both are doing well. Weathersfield is fortunate. We are at about 50% funded. By comparison, some of our neighboring towns are as low as in the teens and 20s. I think our closest is in high 30s, low 40s. I do dare not ask where the state of Connecticut is in funding of pensions, but Weathersfield, for their employees, are doing pretty well with a 50% funded pension plan right now. So any other council comment or reports from boards or commissions? Councilman Biggs.
Good evening, Mayor and everyone else. Just as a liaison for the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, I just felt that I should probably mention that they have been working very hard for what has started off on May 1st, Bikes on Main. The idea was brought forth a few months ago and they did an excellent job carrying it out. If you have not gotten a chance to do so, definitely go down on Main Street and check all the bikes out. And the next meeting is sometime later on this month, so we'll be moving on to many more projects to carry out throughout the summertime. And that is all I have for my committee reports.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay. Like I said, I don't know if I technically need to open the agenda, add discussion, or simply just say if any members have council comments, please do so. Councilman Forrest.
Thanks, Mayor. Just quickly to Gary Evans. This is along the idea of something that we talked about 10 months ago. I know the mayor and I were on the same wavelength, but they just recently paved Church Street. And a lot of times when they seem to do the pavings, whether it's the summertime, the utility hole covers are at a much different grade than the even grade, along with some of the water access, I guess you might say. And that seems to be true with that project. And while driving through that project, which I'm very happy that Church Street has been redone, I also noticed that many on the Southstein Highway as well, and I understand it's a state road, but we've had these issues fixed before, especially heading in the southbound lane, anywhere from Town Hall all the way down to Mill Street. There's about 4 or 5 large differences between the utility covers and the road, and there's also 1 or 2 on Wolcott Hill Road up near the high school area, and then as you head down to D&D. So if you could possibly have the engineer take a look at that, talk to the appropriate authorities. I think it's probably just going to start hammering our cars as we kind of continue through the summertime. Thanks a lot.
Yep. I'll pass the message along. Along
the same vein, I noticed not only on Church Street, but on Knott Street, they repaved because of the mill, the MDC work, and then they remilled it, and it's finally getting paved. But that section of Knott Street from Southstein Highway down to State Street is actually a state road, and the state was the one who said no to fully repaving Knott Street, and they left a section that they didn't think was that bad right in front of AA Vet west to the Silestein Highway. So if anybody sees that and is wondering why a section of Knott Street didn't get milled and repaved, it is a state road. So I don't know if that would be a concern at some point if that road, that part of Knott Street deteriorates faster than what is currently repaved, or if there's any other work that needs to be done on that unrepaved section by MDC or any of the other utility companies. But I think that may be a conversation we should have with our state delegation at some point. I know everybody's looking to save money, but if you're got the equipment out there to mill down the existing layer and simply repave a couple hundred square feet of prior asphalt that could just continue to be done, I think it would, alleviate some headaches for people who are thinking, why did we not repave the entire road? It was not a town decision, if I'm not mistaken. It was a decision on behalf of the state to the MDC. So, just wanted to mention that because I did hear from a couple folks that live on Knott Street and a couple of folks that actually just wrote on it and questioned why the town would not fully repave a road. Well, it's not a town road, I guess. Any other council comments? Okay. Good. Quiet bunch, but we'll be talking a lot more in the next couple days. Workshop items for referral to regular business agenda for action. We do not have any. I don't believe we have any resignations or appointments at this point. We do have, and I did see Charlie Brown on from Central Connecticut Health District. So I don't know if we want to turn it over to Charlie to explain or if we want an explanation by the town manager on this. I think we've got Charlie on, so best to hear it from man of the hour these last couple months.
Charlie, do you want to go or do you want me to start?
Why don't you start, Gary, and then I'll jump in.
Okay. So this, I'll start with since, I don't know, I'm going to say March 12th. Actually, it probably started a little bit before that, but more intensified around March 12th or 13th. I convened a group of kind of a mix of staff members for emergency response purposes, heads of department heads, the larger departments, as well as having Charlie Brown seated at the table. We began to meet originally multiple times a week to address COVID issues and the amount of changes that were coming down, not only from the federal level, but also from the state level. We were constantly seeing changes through executive orders. Things we had never been able to handle or had seen before were being thrown at us. I've made the joke, probably inappropriately about my profession, but the reality is government does not change on a dime. We do not turn on a dime. We are very big and cumbersome, and we are very set in our ways, and in a very short period of time, we had to reverse how we operated. We had to find new ways and unique ways to reinvent ourselves in a short period of time. And CCHD, with Charlie Brown, he was assigned to us. It could have been other municipalities he was assigned to, but we were lucky enough to get him for guidance, keeping us constantly informed of the changes, which were constantly changing, and kind of the push and pull between Department of Public Health, what the governor was telling us, what the CAAC was telling us, and constant changes. So during that period of time, he was an extension of the town. Ultimately, and this is what I said in the justification, if you're a municipality and you have a health department, you would be able to access funding through the first tranche, which was CARES Act funding. Because we are part of a district instead of having our own department here, organizations not just like CCHD, Central Connecticut Health, but also Uncas Health down in the Norwich area and other parts of the state were ineligible to access those funds, but yet had the same costs incurred, staffing that had to be designated and available for training, for education, for immediate response, reopening plans. And so we do have access to funding for reimbursement purposes that we can use now. It is not currently in the budget. It is sitting as a revenue, considered a revenue that can only be allocated or appropriated by council. And that's where we are. And Charlie, feel free to fill in and kind of explain what you need to.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Gary. And really what we're looking for here is reimbursement for a lot of the work that we were doing back in the first part of COVID up into December 31st of last year. And this work wasn't compensated through any other funding stream. So the work that we did working with the schools to develop contact tracing, develop, and explain the business reopening and business restrictions, enforcement of any executive orders that have gone through, really fell in our laps. We were happy to be able to support the towns, but, at the same time, we'd be very happy to be able to be reimbursed for the work that we did accomplish. And with that, I stand ready to answer any question.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Mazzarella.
Yeah, thanks, Charles, for your work that you do. Couple questions. As I read the write-up here, basically you're trying to replace lost revenue. Is that correct, or is it like overtime for all the work that your people had to do, or it's mostly the revenue?
It's a combination of the two. So we actually did, in our budget, we have shortfalls under the temporary events because at the point last year we didn't have any temporary events, and we actually count that for license revenue. In addition, we've had numbers of food service establishments that closed throughout the pandemic. So we're seeking to help make up part of that revenue with a little bit of this reimbursement. The majority of it really is work that we did that we were not able to be reimbursed through other funding streams. And this FEMA funding for the Coronavirus Relief Fund really does fit in with the work that we actually accomplished at that time.
My second is related to the school system. I can imagine you spent a lot of time working with the superintendent on plans for, distancing and all the precautions. And I was just trying to get an idea of if you could approximate, like, what was the split? Would you say 50% of your time with the school system and 50 with the town, or
it's hard to say because we really lump everything together. I have been to every school multiple times, individually to walk through, to be able to answer any questions, to give technical support for the schools. We've done the same thing for the towns with the libraries and other buildings and support. So, it's hard to put a number on it, to be honest with you. I can't really say it's 50-50, 40-60, but we've spent a lot of time on both sides of it.
Okay. And then just a follow-up question for Gary, I guess. Is it possible that we can share some of these extra costs with the school district? Obviously, it would have to come from us first, but I'd like to see some kind of sharing if it's possible.
Interesting thought. I don't know the answer to that question. It's a unique, because of the funding source, it's relatively unique. It was, I don't know how the state based their calculation. I guess I'd like to go back and ask OPM how they calculated it, if it included things like, an understanding that the health, or not even the health department, but when they gave us this first tranche of funding, is it based off of increased energy costs or increased costs to maintain schools? Or was it just, is it a townwide application for that allocation of funding? and in which case we may not be able to, or I don't know if there's any restriction to it, but it's probably worth the conversation to see.
I don't have any problem approving the $28,000 item that we're talking about right now, but it seems that there's a lot of funding available to the school system that we're almost looking for opportunities to use some of that. And if we can split this up somehow, that might help. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzarella. Any other comments for either Charlie or Gary? Now, I would just simply concur with what the Deputy Mayor had said. There is pools of money that both the Board of Ed and the town are getting. This is something that, the town council had been faced with the request of the $28,000. But if there is a way to work with our finance department, and I did see Mike O'Neill on earlier, maybe a conversation with the finance department of the Board of Ed to see if there is a little bit of shared revenue sources for this allocation to CCHD. I think we got to have that conversation. Okay.
I have a quick question for Mr. Brown. Just to clarify, are you going to all the member towns of CCHD to ask for like a proportional portion of the cost?
Yes, the other three towns have already made their allocation. Weathersfield's the only remaining allocation that we're awaiting.
Okay, thank you.
Charlie, are we late at this, as this is the first time that we're dealing with this on the board?
I don't, this is kind of new ground for us as well. First pandemic that we really are dealing with along these lines. And FEMA funding traditionally, as Gary said, it's very easy for municipalities to access, but for districts, we just don't have the mechanism to be able to do so. So, we really do rely upon the towns, in an emergency to treat the district as you would treat your health department. We're at a municipal department, and assure that we get the proper funding through those mechanisms. So as you're reimbursed for costs associated that are health department related costs, passing that on to the health district is really something that y'all should be thinking of. So this is the first time that we've had to be able to go through and do this. There may be times in the future to where, we have to work together ahead of time to really allocate those costs before, rather than seeking reimbursement after the fact.
Okay. Does the CCHD receive, where's the majority of your funding from? Is it state or federal?
It's a lot of pass-through funding. What this particular funding source, the coronavirus relief fund, was for the first part of the pandemic. And at that point, we were really getting very little funding whatsoever. We've gotten some funding now for an expanding lab capacities grant. We've gotten some funding for vaccinations, and we're going to continue to work on those. And there's additional funding we're assured that's going to move forward. So really, our ask of the towns moving forward is probably going to be very little, because we're going to try to be able to cover what our expenses are through those other funding mechanisms. It's just at the time that these funds came through, there were no other mechanisms to cover what was being asked that we do.
Gotcha. Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Brown? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to appropriate $28,400 from the $346,911.82 CARES Act CRF funds received from the state of Connecticut as part of reimbursement through December 31st, 2021 to the CCHD for pandemic-related assistance.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Keep up the good work, and please keep everybody safe as much as possible.
Well, let's keep our heads about us as we wrap this thing up. And I definitely appreciate the support, guys. We've been working together well. Let's keep our mask on and get vaccinated, and we'll get through this.
You got it. Thank you. Okay, next item, and then Gary, let's have that conversation with the finance department and Mr. Emmett, see what we can, make some headway on that. Okay. Item B4, this is for the continuation of the budget period. By town charter, we do have to have a budget in place and voted on and ratified by May 15th. Years past, we have always been able to hit that deadline. We could probably hit the deadline this year, but there are some concerns, as we heard with Mr. Brown, about federal funding, be it the American Rescue Plan or the in the Board of Ed side, ESSER funds, or for what Mr. Brown actually had with the CARES Act and the Coronavirus Relief Fund from the state. There are different funding sources providing or allocating funds to the town of Wethersfield that we just do not know how to allocate those once we get them into our coffers. So with that in mind, and with the discrepancy between the legislature's proposed budget that was passed out of committee a couple of weeks ago and the governor's budget that was presented back in January, to get a better understanding, and fingers crossed that the legislature and the governor will sign a budget that has funding allocations for municipalities and boards of ed included in it, that we can work off of those numbers rather than taking I don't want to say a wild guess, but an educated guess on where the town would land with those funding sources, or funding, not only the funding sources, but the funding allocations from those sources. So rather than, rushing to get something done by May 15th with a couple unknowns, the governor's executive order, I believe it was 10E from, yes, executive order 10E almost about a year ago, that extends that deadline to June 30th. We would like to extend the deadline for budget adoption to June 30th. With the knowledge that the finance department and the tax collector's office would need to get about 3 weeks notice before July 1's issuance of tax bills go out, that this will just give us a couple extra days to be able to find out what the Treasury is doing with the allocation of municipal funding. Actually, it would go from federal pass through the state to municipalities, but we would need to know from the U.S. Department of Treasury how those allocations can be made. So, with that said, we would like to extend this beyond the May 15th deadline, no later than June 30th, but like I said, and like we did last year, well in advance of when Mike O'Neill and our tax collector need to have a sense of where we are with our budget before they put out the tax bills. Are there any questions on this? Councilman Hill.
Thanks, Mayor. And just going through the documentation that was provided in our packet, and you had touched on it briefly regarding tax bill may be delayed. Should we do this? Is that, I don't know if the town manager or Mr. O'Neill can what's the fear there of, does this mean that, like, the town will not, like, will the delay cause some sort of undue harm to the town?
No, I mean, and Mike, you can chime in if you want as well, but, from my standpoint, whatever you put out, you have 30 days from the time that you mail it to get collection. So if you put it out July 5th, it's not due until August 5th. So, is 5 days necessarily going to cripple our finances? Probably not. But again, we work off of call it I don't anticipate a cash flow issue, but at the end of the day, we need to collect the taxes. So the longer you wait, the longer we have to wait to collect our taxes. But do I think our system's going to come to a screeching halt if we're 5 days late? My opinion is no, but I'll let Mike, who has an interesting filter going on his computer, speak.
Sure. It isn't, Gary's right, it's not so much an issue of cash flow as it is just, communication with taxpayers. All of a sudden, a lot of people are looking for their bills at the end of June, and a lot of people come in and pay before July 1st because they think they're due on July 1st because they're actually due on July 1st, but you're allowed to pay up until August 1st and all that before interest is accrued. So it's, it presents a communication challenge. And also, everyone in the state is trying to prepare their bills. There's one software vendor that provides a system for probably 95% of the towns in the state. So it just it creates a bit of a log jam there. But again, it can all be dealt with. But that's just an answer to your question. That's what it that's what it's up against. But it's all doable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And like I said, last year we did this and we had the budget adopted on May 29th. So I think this year, it's not, I don't foresee us going until the June 30th deadline. Councilman Forrest, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. Mayor, you mentioned that we would like to, use this extension. Who is the we? Is that like you talk to Gary and that's sort of where the town's coming from? Is it another we? Can you provide some insight into that? Or?
I guess maybe it was a we as in myself and maybe Gary. Gary and I discussed it. I thought it was a good idea. He didn't shoot me down, and nor did our finance director. I'm sure Gary shared that with Mike. Maybe I misspoke. I could be the only one voting aye tonight. Didn't take the pulse of the council. I don't mean it as a collective aye, but or a collective we. It was an idea that I thought, having seen some emails from CCM, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, that I don't know if you guys all received those as well, but they are part of a group. Executive Director Joe DeLong, along with a handful of other folks, including 2 other mayors, are or have formed a group to set out the parameters of the distribution of or the allocation of the federal funding to municipalities. But reading through some of the concerns that other mayors and first selectmen have about how to spend that money before the Department of Treasury puts out their guidance, is leaving a lot of not only mayors and first selectmen, but finance directors and boards of finance is scratching their heads on what to do with the money and how to allocate it or keep it in reserve. So having read that, I thought it was a good idea to extend that deadline. The governor, with his executive authority, has also thought it was appropriate to extend that deadline. He has kept the executive order going to June 30th of this year as he did last year. So maybe it's not a we as on this council, but a collective voice of a number of other chief elected officials that have concerns with how to spend the money.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification. The next follow-up is what would be the latest we could adopt and still stay within like the regular schedule of getting out the tax bills and so on? Would that be like a June 1? Do you need those 30 days to get it out by July 1, 25 days? What does that timing look like to sort of stay on the regular schedule but still adopt later than May 15th?
I believe, and I saw Mike come back on, what we heard last year, what I heard last year, and maybe he shared it with the rest of the council, I believe in some of the conversations that were held on the budget prior to our adoption of the extension last year, is that, Mike, you were looking for 3 weeks prior to, I don't know if it's July 1 or it's a couple days after July 1 that you would look.
We like to have them out. We like to have them in the mail, you know, on the 28th, 27th, 28th, 29th of June. So really, I would think if you get within 2 weeks of that date is where, you know, you probably begin to jeopardize the ability to get them in that time. So what has to happen is that the assessor has quite a bit of work to do to put through adjustments and so forth before the bills are run. Then the whole process is handed off to the tax collector. She has a lot of administrative work that she has to do, and then the company itself has to, you know, prep the file and print the bills and stuff them and all that.
So if we adopt by like June 10th, that's a pretty safe way we could still be on a regular tax schedule?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for the facts.
Thank you, Councilman Forrest, for those questions. Thank you, Mike, for answering them. We are in a better place than we were at this point last year when we were trying to come up with a budget with a lot more unknowns. And to the governor's credit, at that point, he did put this executive order out there then, and I think he understands that the difficulties of not only the ACR funds coming in as well as where municipalities are in their budget process. He understood the time extension that may be required for some municipalities. Now, I'm not saying it's required for our municipality, but it is good to have in the sense that we get a better handle or a better grasp on what our revenue looks like. Any other questions on this?
I just wanted to make a comment, and that is, I don't think anyone has brought this up yet, but I know a lot of us are aware of it, that this is the last day. If we're going to extend the deadline that we pass the budget, we have to do it tonight. Otherwise, we won't be able to, and we'll have to stick with the May 15th deadline. Because, I mean, I would like in theory to, you know, wait till we get closer and see how the deliberations go. At least if we, you know, just pass this extension, we'll have the option to go later. That's not to say we necessarily have to go, you know, push it out into June, but it's good to have the option.
Thank you, Councilwoman. More eloquently than I would have said it. So, yes, the Department of Treasury is giving guidance on the 11th. Our next meeting is, I believe, 2 weeks from today, obviously. So the 17th, and our budget adoption deadline is the 15th. I'm not typical to have somebody come in on a Saturday, so we would probably have done that either on the 14th or 13th that week. So, having that earlier. Councilman Pelletier. Sorry, Pentelope.
Close. I don't think Mary could have said it any better. So with that in mind, I'm just going to make a motion to modify the fiscal year 2022 municipal and Board of Education budget timeline from being no later than May 15th, as currently stated in the town charter, to being approved before June 30th, 2021.
Okay. Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, or abstentions, I guess. Ayes have it. Motion carries. And we have the AFSCME Local 1303 408 union contract. This is item B5, and I did see Claudia on. I don't know if Claudia is fully on for a week or two to be able to talk about this. I know a lot of work has been going on before with
That would probably be unfair to do to her.
I'm sorry.
I'm here, Mayor.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you've worked on this with, did I see Ken Plum on as well? No.
He was. Must have lost him. Let me see.
Mayor and Council, I was not that involved in negotiating this contract. My first day, my hire date was April 22nd. I have some knowledge, but Gary would be able to answer questions better than I would, but I'd be happy to if I can.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll put Gary on the spot, but this council has met to discuss this. This is the 3-year contract for the town hall and dispatch unions, local 1303-408. And before I start, I don't know if Gary had corrected it on the memo to us. There is, just make sure that it does say 1303. Yes, it's regarding the ratification of AFSCME local 1303-408. It's not physical services. This is town hall and dispatch. So where it does say 1303-40, it should be 408, and it should say town hall and dispatch as well. I believe it is a duration of 3 years that begins July 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2023. So that is included in the memo portion. So I don't want anybody to be confused. Am I correct, Mr. Town Manager, on that?
Sure. So you picked up on it correctly, and I apologize to the council and to the members, or to the residents in town. A little bit of Scribner's error. The information on the agenda form is correct. It is the AFSCME Local 1303-408 union contract. It does cover July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. The information that is incorrect is on the memo attachment. In the regarding section, it should have said 1303-408, town hall / dispatchers. We do have a 1303-40, physical services. When I went through and amended this memo, trying to keep the same structure as what we always do, so it always looks the same, I inadvertently missed the regarding section, as well as the first sentence, the AFSCME Local 1303-408, which is correct. Union consists of 26 members, not 34. 34 would be 1303-40. And it, again, is the Town Hall Dispatchers Union. Other than that, the rest of the information is correct. As discussed in executive session, I really thank the contributors of the on the union side. They're a negotiating team led by Karen Tomczyk, Anthony Arborio, Frank Liberatori, and attorney Christopher Henderson from AFSCME. They were very thought-provoking in a lot of the requests that they made. And then on our side, attorney Ken Plum and I had worked to kind of, on the town side, on the management side, to come together. Claudia, it would be unfair to put her in the middle of the spot. She came in on the 22nd after we had already gone to the point where it went to the union for ratification. So I thank the union members for their consideration. The the gross wage increase was low. Similar to the other unions that we've negotiated, they all kind of fell into place with understanding where the town was in terms of finances and trying to help the best that they can. At the end of the day, these employees live in the town as well as work in the town, not all of them, but they take their job very seriously, their responsibilities very seriously, and they provide a high level of customer service, and they understand, that they play a role, and they were willing to make adjustments to their requests. And so I thank them, and I'm more than willing to answer any questions that you have.
Deputy Mayor Mazzarella?
So on the attached memo, Gary, the duration or the dates incorrect on that. It says 21 to 24. Should it be 20 to 23?
Yep, sorry.
And is the matrix correct with all the wage increases and so forth?
Yep, so that was cut and paste from Excel, so that should be accurate. A
Okay,
0, a
thank you.
2.5, and a 2%.
Councilman Forrest?
Thanks, Mayor. Gary, the only technical change I see on the requested motion is to change the local number to 1303-408. Am I correct that that's the only change in the motion that's on page 1?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mayor, are you looking for ratification on this? Is that the idea tonight?
Well, I mean, we can have discussion on it first. Anybody else has any other questions on it? Councilman Hill?
Thanks, Mayor. Real quick, Gary, what, should this not be approved and have to go to arbitration? And the packet, one of the descriptions was it would lead to significant legal costs. I mean, what are we ballpark looking at it should that occur?
I mean, every arbitration is a little bit different. I've seen 50,000, I've seen 30,000. I don't know, Ken, if without holding you on it, but what an estimate range might be. I guess it all depends upon the depth of the items that need to be negotiated. We typically, our strategy has been, without giving away the full strategy, if we can't come to an agreement on the smaller terms, then we go after everything in the contract. That becomes a heavier lift and more of a fight. So, but the range 30 to 50, I don't know, how am I close, Ken?
Yeah, Gary, you're close, because it's issue by issue arbitration. So, if you have 85 issues, it's going to be very extensive. If you have less than that, it's going to be that much less. But 30, I would say 30 is an absolute minimum, because you got to remember, in addition to paying the legal costs, we're just talking about legal costs when we're at 30, you also have stenographic costs, you also have to pay our arbitrator, and we have to pay half the cost of the neutral arbitrator. So it doesn't take long to get up into some big numbers.
And then if you lose,
Yeah.
you're paying the loss.
All right. That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a bit of housekeeping. Do we need to make a motion to change the action that's required? Because it's on the agenda as 1303-40.
I mean, in theory, you're making the motion, so you can amend it as you go.
But because it's publicized on the public agenda, we can still make the motion?
Yes. Because again, you're making a motion, and so whatever your motion is has to get a second and then a vote.
Yep, it doesn't have to match. Councilman Flanagan.
I'll make a motion to ratify the AFSCME Local 1303-408 Collective Bargaining Agreement covering July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Counselor. I also thank you for your latitude on the several typos within the document. Apologize.
No problem. We have item number B6 for us tonight. This comes from the police department. It's requested by Chief Bailey on this. This is something that some of you may have heard some concerns about. One of our engines, engine number 11, and if Chief Bailey is on, I need him to help me. Is it Sutphin? Gotcha. Sutphin, from 2000, I believe, 3, engine 11, has some work, serious repair work that needs to be done. So I guess maybe, Gary, if you want to tee it up for the chief, or we can go right to the chief with this, but the concern is some work that needs to be done on this truck, and I know there's some questions from councilmen on the Zoom tonight for you, Chief. So I guess maybe if you don't mind giving us a little bit of a background on this truck and some of the issues that it's currently faced with to deem it necessary for repair.
Yeah, the short version is it's structural, the work that needs to be done. Yes, it is extensive. I see there's a representative from Shipmans, who's our provider, that would fix it. They are the Sutphin dealer, the new dealer in the area, and his name is Harrington. I'm sorry. I don't know if he's connected. I see his name, but I don't know if he's connected onto the voice yet. There he is. All right. I guess I could answer some questions up front, and then probably defer to Harold being the expert on it. So whichever, Mr. Mayor, through your chair, whatever you'd like.
Okay. I guess I'll open the floor up to questions. Are there any questions for either Chief Bailey or Mr. Harrington? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Steve, thanks for coming in. I kind of like the long version rather than the short version. I'm trying to understand how we got to this point. I heard a lot of rumors. I haven't heard any facts yet. So if you can kind of walk me through what was the problem with the truck? How was it noticed?
It was noticed in its yearly review by one of our mechanics. That was called the cradle, which in understanding this engine is much different than anything else we have. It has a 2,000 gallon water tank on it. Right. That's obviously much heavier and cumbersome than any vehicle we have in the fire department. Our mechanic noticed that the cradle supports were rotting, and came to me, told me that, and he showed me a couple of other things that were rotting underneath the truck, and very honestly, said it was above us. And with the premise of that, I really think the world of our mechanics, and I think they do a great job. But he said, listen, we got to get somebody up here to really look at this. That's when we got a hold of Harold. Harold came up and pointed out some things that we hadn't seen. And at that point, I asked him, all right, where do we go from here? What do I need to do? And he's very honest. I trust the man. And he said, I needed to get it to my shop. I need to start taking some things apart and see how deep these problems go.
So was this cradle cracked, or was it corroded?
I would say corrosion more than anything, but I'm going to let Harold, butt in at any point, Harold, and, to explain this so I get it right.
Okay. Yeah, we was able to get the truck up on the lift to do a thorough inspection in our shop. And when we started into it, we could see that the cradle or the tank supports have deteriorated over the years, letting the 1x3 rectangular tubing, which is the cradle support, collapse. So then with that being said, it lets the tank drop down on the frame, on the original frame of the truck. When we started looking at that, we noticed the tail section of the truck was also rusted and deteriorated. We found cracks on the frame. We went to the front of the truck, and we started into the large center section of the cab. We found some cracks on the framework of the rider portion of the cab. So the more inspection we did, it was the more things that we came up with besides the original report of the tank cradle being damaged or needing repair or needed attention. So that's how we started with the project.
I noticed in the history of this vehicle, the tank actually broke loose or shifted back in 2017. The bolts that hold the tank support on the tank support cross member, if you will, they replaced bolts on both sides. In your opinion, do you think there's a design deficiency with the, we got 16,000 pounds of water in that tank, and I don't know if the foam tank is part of that structure or not, but it's a sizable amount of weight. And I see in your write-up, you're talking about adding additional supports for strength. Has the manufacturer been aware of a problem with that heavy of a tank and this kind of structure?
Not to my knowledge. It's two different things there. When we was talking about adding supports, we would change the support structure of the tank cradle. So that means right now, each one of your cross members are approximately 17 inches apart. If we rebuilt the tank cradle, then we would change the structure to get it where it's sitting in a different position on the original frame cradle or on the original frame. Adding cross members to the top or to the front of the body of the truck, we had looked at that because the sides are starting to separate, where I think that was an issue you had previously with the having to put the sides of the truck, adhere them or attach them back to the framework. This particular truck has tank cradle and side compartments attached together, so it's a little different design. If that answers your question.
Yeah. And the other part of the question, I guess I'll go back to the chief or possibly Gary. I was trying to better understand how the truck went to your facility, and then you're providing us a quote to refurbish the truck. So I'm trying to understand how we got from repairing a problem to refurbishing the truck to include many items not related to the cracks and deterioration of the structure, but we're talking about brake work, and I'm assuming it's a leak in the pinion seal, replacing the fuel tank with a new fuel tank, and brake work. And I'm wondering, was that requested by our people, or is that something that you're just recommending we do to extend the life of the vehicle?
Well, if I may, the brake work, yes. If the council is to choose to fix this, Harold is basically going to have the body off the truck, and the brakes would probably be up next year for replacement anyway. It makes it much easier. Harold has graciously agreed to let our mechanic go down and do that while the truck is apart to save money for us. That's the braking issue. A lot of the other things, as you take things apart, the cab bushings and things like that, those are 18 years old and have had a cab sitting on them and all that pressure and turning, while it's off, you replace those. You don't put the old ones back. If that answers your question.
How about the fuel tank? Is there a problem with it?
Yes. I have pictures that I can upload, and I'll get them to the manager. There is a rust issue with the fuel tank that we would have had to replace now anyway.
And then I guess my last concern goes to the town manager or physical services with the truck maintenance. In my career, you wouldn't send a vehicle that's, a $600,000 or $700,000 vehicle someplace to have it repaired or have it looked at without some clear documentation of what's to be done. And according to your response, a purchase order is not created until you enter a contract. Well, you're turning over a piece of equipment to another entity and it's in their care and custody. I'm not saying they decided they would take the truck apart without asking, but, these things should be in writing. You bring your car to the local dealer because, you say, when I go over a bump, it makes this loud noise, and they sit you down with a service manager and they write out what work you're authorizing them to do. And here, it doesn't seem like that was done. It was like, well, we'll take the truck down to our facility on good faith and look it over and tell you what we think. And
no, that's actually, if I may, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that's not how it happened. Harold came up at our request and started looking at things. Now, he pointed out some things that we didn't see. We're not truck builders. Our guys are truck fixers. And he had told me at that point, I asked him, I said, I trust the man. I said, what's the best route? He says, I need to get it down. I said, okay, how many hours? And he said, about 24 hours of work, obviously 3 days, and he would be able to assess the best way to move forward. And that's what I asked him to do. He didn't recommend any. I asked him simply, what is the best route for this? I couldn't come to you, all of you, without answers. I couldn't do, if I keep saying maybe, you're going to throw me off the call. This was our best avenue to find out what's wrong with the truck, what needs to be done, and how it's going to be fixed. So I guess the short answer is no, Mr. Deputy Mayor, there was no paperwork. He told me about 24 hours, and I said, if you need more, call me. And that was the end of that conversation.
where does the truck stand now as far as, is it partially disassembled? Is it back on its wheels, rolling and driving, or?
The truck is able to be moved at any time. I have it in one of my storage shops. I crank the truck 2 or 3 times a week just to make sure everything's functioning with the batteries. As far as the disassembling, we disassembled a limited amount and put it back together. But the main thing was, where everyone fully understands, was to get it on the lifts. There was no way to inspect the truck at your facility in Weathersfield. So the main objective was to get it on the lifts where everyone could get under their truck. I could take the mechanics, a full staff, but we could look at it different ways. We even requested that your town mechanic came up, and he even found a couple of things that we didn't see. So when we started looking at the truck, it was from one thing to the next thing, and with doing a thorough inspection, that's all we did, was a thorough inspection of your truck. It was everything visible. Correct, Chief?
Well, I appreciate your
Correct.
in all the work you've done to date. You brought up a real sore subject with myself, and this council approved a $185,000 lift, and I was assured that it would fit our heaviest piece of fire apparatus. And from what I just heard, we were unable to lift that truck in Weathersfield to adequately inspect it.
Well, to be very honest, it's too long as well.
I asked a specific question if the engines would fit inside the building. And I was assured, I was not on the council, I was a resident, I was a taxpayer, I was assured that that facility could lift every one of our fire apparatus. Now I'm hearing completely the opposite.
Well, then, may I speak?
Sure.
So in the best interest of everyone, the way that we evaluated it was when we was able for the truck to be brought to our shop. Then that way I don't have all of my mechanics. I've got 5 mechanics. I don't have 5 mechanics in your building evaluating the truck. So to me, and speaking with the chief, it was the best way to evaluate the truck was to where we could get different ideas. There was been no way I could have put all my mechanics in and sent them to your facility. I would have done it at the chief's request, but it didn't seem feasible to go that route.
Understand. My comments about the lift, Harold, were not directed at you or your company. They're internal. My last comment is the quotation's dated April 7th. It has a 30-day expiration on that. Is that a hard limit, or do we have more time?
You have more time. The only thing that, when we had put the quote together, of course, we have a schedule to follow, and I know if you guys decided to make the repair on the truck, it's a lengthy repair. So the quicker, or when we put the proposal together, that would give us the amount of time to get the truck back to you. So it's a lot of different things. Could we extend the quote? Absolutely, for a short period. We couldn't extend it for 30 more days. We might be able to do 15, but I think 30 would be to the extreme because metal's increasing, the price of metal, and there's so many different things that goes with it. We set our price for the price of material at the date we set the quote.
Understand. And then my last comment, and then I'll put a sock in it. This is to the town manager. Why are we just now hearing about a quotation that was provided on April 7th? And I believe the truck was identified as needing work March 18th or prior to that. And I've requested a couple times information about the truck, and I find it disheartening to hear about it the day before an agenda is set. I don't have anything else to say. Thank you, everyone, for your comments.
Any other questions for either Mr. Harrington or Chief Bailey? Councilman Pentelow.
Yeah, I think either one could probably answer this, but I'm curious as far as the time frame on each scenario. So, typically I have very limited knowledge, basically no knowledge on what the turnaround time in terms of purchasing or even leasing a new fire truck is. So my question is, if we were to vote to repair this, how fast can you get the engine back online? As compared to if we leased it, how fast can we get a new engine into the firehouse? Like, what's the difference in time between the two scenarios?
Well, if I could answer my side of it, if you guys decided to pursue this and you didn't go over the 15 days that I allowed you, I think I could have the truck back to you. I'm shooting for September 24th.
So roughly 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, it's a pretty good push to get it. You know, it would be, I know you guys will need to get the truck back, but it's a lot of work goes into the truck. It's many hours of labor. For as the new delivery of a truck, I couldn't answer that today. We do have a sales force that possibly I could get the chief or yourself an answer by the end of the week. If you chose to go with the type of truck that we sell.
It would be about 16 months to replace.
So repairing it, you could potentially get the engine back to working condition in 4 months, but if we got a new one, it would be over a year before we could get it?
Yes.
And does that present a safety issue? I mean, I think that's an obvious question.
You know, to be honest, either one, I shouldn't say presents a safety issue. It's going to present an issue if we're using our spare engine right now. So if something happens to that, that's where we're going to start running into a problem. And that's a 1992. So we're looking at 30 years old in a couple months.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for the chief or Mr. Harrington? Councilman Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know, to the chief, should we go the repair route? Do we know what kind of amount of time that we'll be buying with this vehicle? Like, are we going to add on another 15 years or so to its life cycle?
I'll step on Harold Sodes. No, you're not going to add that much. This truck would be up for replacement in, I believe, 9 years anyway. You know, when you do a repair like this, and again, I've never gone through something like this, and talking to Harold, you know, how much guarantee do you get? You know, it could be 2 years, it could be 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, and this is everything he takes apart and fixes. I'm not worried about. It's the other stuff. You know, this isn't every weld, you know, there's still going to be some sight unseen, I'm sure, and that could be stressed, and we don't know.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Councilwoman Pelletier.
I have a question that's in the same vein as Councilor Hill's. The quote says it's to refurbish the tanker engine. So it's sort of, the word refurbish makes me think it's sort of going to be, you know, you're sort of taking care of any of the problems you see, and it's going to be not like new because it's 18 years old, but it should, you know, give a lot of life to the engine. And I wanted to hear from Mr. Harrington about how long you think this truck will last if we approve all this work.
Well, there's no way that I could give you a guarantee on the length of the time the entire truck would last. We're talking about shipments, would be repairing the tank cradle. We would rebuilding the back of the truck. It would be the front part of the truck where your crew rides. The cab mounts are deteriorated or either out of proportion. When we measure the cab is 1.5 inches low on one side. So everything that we do, we're confident that the repair that we make will give you the life that we're looking for, what you guys are looking for. Could I guarantee it? Absolutely not. It's too many other components in the truck. You have your engine, you have your transmission, your drivetrain, your pump. So we're not working on any of that. We're working strictly on structural, if that helped answer your question.
I think maybe refurbishment may not be the best word, because I understand what you're saying, Counselor, and, you know, it's not gonna have new seats, it's not getting a beauty facelift in the cab, it's none of that stuff. You know, there's nothing pretty about this. It's structural, it's stuff you're not gonna see. You know, it's not getting a new paint job, it's not, you know, which I understand that refurbishment kind of lends to that belief.
And my other question is, it says in our agenda that to replace the truck, it would be $600,000, but it's my understanding that this type of truck is like $880,000.
You are correct, and that's why we're not replacing it with a like truck. We're replacing it with, if you were to go that route, it would be a mirror image of one of the engines we got in last year, which is smaller, city pumper. I mean, this thing's big, you know, and we're gonna downsize it.
Okay. And you really need this truck because the spare is from 1992. Like,
Yes.
you can't do without this truck.
Well, it's a frontline piece, and we're using our spare as a frontline piece now, which we replaced last year. So, you know, it's a strong engine. Could it last? Sure. Could it break down tomorrow? Sure. You know, I don't think it will, without question. But, you know, our safety issue, no. Do we need it? Yes, without question.
Thanks.
Councilman O'Connor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Chief, first for your service. Question for you, Rich, is I'm trying to understand it. It almost feels like we don't have a choice but to do the repairs, because if you were to purchase a new one, it's going to take, a year to 18 months, which means you're going to be basically you're going to be running on the one you're running on with no backup. Whereas if we do the repairs, you'll be running on the one with no backup, but for a 5-month period versus a potentially 18-month period. So am I seeing that correctly? Like, it looks to me as if the only real viable solution is to just fix it and hope we get the life cycle out of it that we were supposed to get when we first bought it. And believe it or not, I'm as old as when we first bought it because I was on the council when they bought it, which is pretty sad that I've actually outlived this. But I don't know if I'm understanding that correctly or not, so if you can clarify that, I appreciate it.
No, that is the time difference. You know, the time, really, I guess the issue is going to, am I unmuted?
Yep, you're good.
The issue is going to be, good money after bad money. You know, we can't guarantee it. You know, is it going to be much better? Absolutely. You know, do we wait the 8 years, after the repair, wait the 8 years and try to do it at that point? You know, I'm trying to play both sides of the fence, but you're absolutely correct in what you said.
And how many replacement parts have you gone through, Dan?
I just remember the whole debate when we bought the truck. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
I know I said I was done talking, but I have a couple other items I wanted to add. On the attachment to our agenda item, Mike O'Neill has included a schedule of lease payments. He has an estimated replacement cost of the truck of $660,000 with $220,000 in interest for a total of $880,000. So the $600,000 cost to replace the truck is not accurate, in my opinion. And the second question I have is, if we choose to buy a new truck, are we going to circumvent the whole bidding process and just authorize the purchase of a new truck tonight?
And I'll just answer that quickly.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I mean, the motion doesn't authorize a circumvent of the of the bidding process, so that is an option, but we would still go through a bidding process. One is just going to allow me to start the process. I left it kind of vague intentionally, right, so we could fill in the blank, because I wasn't sure if the council chose to do anything, which way it would go. So rather than having multiple motions, I just kind of left it open. But unless for some reason there's a sole purchase, or the council wishes to suspend the rule, I purposely didn't write the motion that way.
So also consider that if we were to bid the truck, you're gonna add months to the anticipated 12 to 18 month production time, so.
Correct. There is a consortium, a nationwide consortium that Suffin is on, that has gone through the bidding process, and is how we purchased the last two engines 2 years ago. I can send you that. I do not have the name of it, but I can send the manager that tomorrow.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Councilwoman Pelletier.
Thank you. I just had one more quick question. What is the cost, if any, of you providing this quote? Because I know it took a lot of work just to take the truck apart, and if we decide not to do the work, is there an amount that we're going to pay for you to have provided this quote?
Yes. Yes, Harold had given me a dollar figure with the about 24 hours, and I said if you needed more to do it, and the number actually fails me, but it was very reasonable. It was in the $3,000 range, which would come out of my operating budget.
Okay.
Yeah, because when, if you look at our quote, what we had chose to do, if it's some chance that you do decide to go with the repair, of course, we'll waive the charge or the estimate. The estimate is going to run you $1,680 for where I am right now. That was for being on my lift. That was for having my mechanics, having myself, having Todd. He came up and looked at the truck, and I think that will cover my expense for what we've done to evaluate your truck. And of course, we don't charge to put a quote together for you. This was just for the evaluation, if that'll help.
Thank you.
And Gary, actually, before I go, any other questions? So in the funding source for this, or maybe it wasn't the funding source, but maybe in Shipman's report on it, there would be a pay schedule. A pay terms are as follows. Looks like it's half is due 14, well, not even, no, it comes up to 112, just shy of 113,000. So I don't know where the 56,473.33 is from, which is due 14 days after signing. The next payment is due July 21st, 2021. So would this be funded through FY21 and FY22 budgets?
Mike, are you still on? We'd worked out a couple different things, and I can't remember which we agreed to.
I'm here. Sorry, I apologize. I missed the question.
So and we had kind of worked out the detail of where the funding was going to come from if we did the repair, and within the cost estimate, they basically call it 3 payment terms, right? So the first is $56,000 due 14 days after signing. The next payment is $56,000 due in July, and then a final payment due. So you're going to we're crossing over fiscal years, and I can't remember how we decided to structure that. If we were doing some this fiscal year, or it's considered accrued in the year that we pay for it.
Well, we have a couple of options. One is, we can deal with the 2 fiscal years with a purchase order, if we identify a funding source in this year, the purchase order encumbers the funds for payment after year end. We might also look at funds in the CNEF reserve, which is a non-lapsing fund, so the timing, is not an obstacle there. But I would think that, the most obvious place to consider first would be this year's operating budget. There's contingency there.
So if I might speak, we do realize we don't know exactly when the end of your year is, probably June, July, correct?
Yep.
So we can work with you if it would help. We do realize this has been a really tough year for everyone with the crisis everyone has went through. If there's anything we could do to help you modify where it would accommodate your fiscal year, we're definitely open to that. If that would help in any way, if you guys decided to make the repair. We just had this come up with something to present to you. So that's the reason we had broke the financial part the way we did, but it's not set in stone. If you need to do something different, we can definitely sit down and talk to the owners and see what we can come up with. If that would help. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for either Chief Bailey or Mr. Harrington?
I just have one more really quick question. I'm sorry.
For the third time, Councilwoman.
Sorry, just keep thinking of more things. So in the agenda, it says the cost to repair is $210,000, but the quote is for $169,000. And I know that there's a little bit of a buffer in case when you get in there. Is that why there's a discrepancy in case there's more work that has to be done once it's all opened up?
Correct. I built in a contingency. My experience has been just like in construction, you open up a wall, you never know what you find underneath. In discussion with the chief, Mike O'Neill, it was kind of decided that let's build in a buffer just in case we get there. It's easier to set a cap than it is to be under and have to come back and while everything's apart. And, based off of what we're going into and budgets, and suddenly it's July, and I don't want to delay it if I don't have to.
Okay, and we have the money in the contingency fund. There's enough in there to cover this in entirety?
We might have to be creative with that. I don't have the number in front of me if we have the total available within CNEF, within reserve. If not, we might have, right.
Thanks.
Yep.
And I apologize, I had to step away real quick in the beginning, and this is not a disservice for Shipmans. They come with a very reputable name and a very reputable reputation. But is this something that would have to go out to bid? Shall it have gone out to bid for this work? I know we do work with Shipmans all the time for our fire trucks, but I just want to make sure that we're not.
They are the authorized dealer for Sutphen now. 5 Star is no longer dealing with Sutphen.
Okay.
5 Star is the company we would go to up until 2-3 months ago for this type of repair.
Okay. And there's nobody else in the state, Chief?
I don't believe Sutphen has any other certified dealers in the state or repair. I can certainly look.
Well, I don't want to belabor that, but that's something I don't know if we want to go out to bid for something like this, or not, get a couple bids come in for it to see if there's anything less than 169,000? Or is this something that, because they're authorized substance dealers, that they will pretty much everybody be on the same page?
I think they would be on the same page, and being a Suffin dealer and a certified repair, the parts availability. I mean, like I said, I'll do whatever you ask, but
I think within our procurement policy, we would have the flexibility, to use a certified dealer or mechanic that works with these vehicles. It's a professional and specific skill set. Drawing the blank on the term. It's professional. It's like sole source professional. I don't know. But we'll review the policy to make sure we're in line with whatever our procurement policy has and whether or not we have to go out to bid. But, you're looking at a very unique vehicle. And when we buy these, we typically have contracts associated with, who's the dealer that maintains it, or who's the licensed facility that maintains these vehicles.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I can make a motion, or if somebody else wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion here to authorize the town manager to pretty much repair engine 11 for a cost not to exceed $210,000 and to execute all agreements and or contracts necessary for the same.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, through your chair, thank you for your time. I appreciate everything.
No problem. Thank you, Chief. Stay safe out there. Mr. Harrington, take care of our truck. Don't scratch it, dent it.
Thank you very
Parades and
comment, Mike.
Memorial Day.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to letting us serve you. I think you'll be well impressed. Chief Bailey will be kept abreast of every move that we make. He'll be posted once a week. And if we run into something, it'll be at his request. It'd be our request to have him or his crew to come see if we come upon something. We don't foresee it. We think we've laid everything out. And thank you guys and ladies very much for your time.
And if there's some things that can be done by our mechanic, you would share the opportunity with us to save some cost associated with that?
Absolutely. I would just need a certificate of insurance from your employee or from the town. But anything that you would like for him to work with, because it'll be different stages of the truck on the rebuild. If you want him to put the brakes on, the air cans on, whatever you'd like, I'll stay abreast with the chief and we can work as we go. If that would help. And if you need to modify your payments, please talk to the owners. And I think we can come up with something to help you if you would like.
We appreciate that.
I can give you that information tomorrow, Gary.
Thank you, sir.
And Chief, please definitely keep the town manager, and I'm sure he will let the council know, but if you don't mind, if you get some updates, either good, bad, or ugly.
Absolutely, weekly.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, do you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, just before you go, Mr. Harrington, I just wanted to thank you for your honest explanations and assure you that my comments are directed more at internally at our town and the way we transmit our information back and forth, and not on your company or Shipman. I think you've done an excellent job of explaining and doing the inspections that were necessary. So I just wanted to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure serving.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, on that. I think this is the final action item. This is Sue, who's on. This is the historic preservation grant for our records at Town Hall in the Town Clerk's office, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. We have, I did see Sue on earlier. Sue, do you want to explain it?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So tonight I'm here to explain to you, each year the State Library offers the Historic Documents Preservation Program, in which we're allowed to apply for a grant. For our size town, we apply for the $7,500 grant. And this year I would like to use that money and to continue our records management program, which benefits the whole town hall, all the departments. We have someone come in that helps us with records retention, and we have the records room that's very secure for the confidential records, and then we have extra area in the Sally Port, which he helps each department dispose of their records or retain them, whatever they need to do. And then the other part of the grant I would like to use to help maintain the records in the vault. I have at least 60 Mylar maps that I'd like to have scanned, and then we have them put on a disc, and we're able to give those to the searchers when they need them. And also the older books in the vault need to be replaced. The bindings are falling apart, and some are actually dangerous. The pins are starting to come out, so that I just want to make sure that we keep the vault safe too. So those bindings would be replaced, and also some of the map books too. So that will cover what I'd like to do with the grant this year.
Thank you. So, any questions for Sue from council members? I know we may be a little weary after talking fire trucks. There you go, Councilman Forrest.
I'd like to move to authorize the town manager as a delegated person to sign, submit, and accept a grant for $7,500 for the town of Weathersfield.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstain. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank
And
you.
then we have the minutes. This is for the minutes of the public hearing, budget meeting from April 19th. If anybody needs some time to review, but they came in our council packet online, and they will be posted online for people to review. And can I get a motion to approve the council minutes for April 19th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And any abstention with that? Nope. Okay, second, public comments. Again, 5 minutes, and *6 to unmute yourself.
Okay, we'll start with 860-878-4688.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Boria.
Okay, 860-563-6923.
Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. Your discussion on this fire engine was like the others. You know, first of all, the one thing that was missing was what's the mileage? What's the mileage on this particular fire engine, water engine, whatever you want to call it? Maybe you could get back to us on that next time. Also, fire engines, when you see them, they're always clean and sparkling. But after listening to this one, the description by Mr. Harrington about the rot here and the rot over there, and, you know, guys, is the sparkle that we see on these fire engines just cosmetic? Or do they really wash? How come everything is rotting underneath? You know, we've heard other fire engines that are rotted too. And, you know, we've also heard of other machines that the town of Wethersfield has that have been rotting through also, which, you know, is getting to be old reasons to get rid of something or to find reasons for replacements because they're rotting. But a lot of this stuff is, you know, we wash them all the time. Don't we wash through the different angle irons that are underneath, or do we just do the front section that everybody's going to see? But, you know, I just found it kind of like disturbing how everything that we have in our town that needs to be replaced is rotting. It seems like it's a common theme that we have. And we have people that we're told do great work, but our stuff is rotting. Now, refurbishing this 2003 fire engine that was a water tanker built by some company called Supton, I think, and most of our fire engines are built by this same company, and we hear the same story. You know, maybe we should be looking at a different fire engine builder. Maybe this company is horrible. It sounds horrible. It sounds like, again, how many miles does it have on it? How does that rust to get started up in the angle irons? It drips off, or it should drip off, or maybe it's not built that way. Maybe it's built to rot. And maybe that's the way they keep doing their business. This machine was built in 2003 with unknown miles. How many times has it gone out on the highway, and how many miles has it got to make this rot that we keep hearing about tonight? It just doesn't sound right. You know, as far as I'm concerned, the performance and the longevity of the stuff and fire engines stink. They absolutely stink. You should find another company to do business. Now, I looked at this on your agenda, and I have it up in front of me. We have a Stephan fire engine that we're still making payments on, and we'll stop making them in 2025, the last payment. I also noticed there's another fire engine. Only a few months ago, I think, you bought another fire engine. Is it the same brand? I don't know, because it doesn't say Stephan. It just says RS fire engine. I don't know what that means. But the fact is, if it's the same brand, we're getting snookered again, guys. And to go buy another one tonight, another one we're going to get snookered some more. I guess that's how towns are. Towns, when they're building buildings and when they're buying equipment, in a lot of cases, they get snookered. Look at our high school, how we got snookered. We got snookered from our own guy that we were paying. He was the architect. He snookered us. And here we buy things, fire engines, and they're rotting. We have to replace backhoes and those kinds of trucks because they're rotting. And how many miles do they really have? Come on. These are not like country heading across the country, going 24 hours a day, running 24 hours a day across the country. These are just taking off once in a while. So anyway, kind of disturbing. and of all, the miles that nobody wanted to talk about. Now, again, we got to find some ways of saving money because we're spending too much money, and with this budget coming up right now, I know you got a little extension, but you got to cut that budget way back. And by you voting on the union tonight, union contract, you voted for doing something with 170,000 for a fire engine that we didn't even know about until tonight, right? What a town. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yep. Okay. And just for clarification, nobody voted to purchase a new Sutton fire truck tonight, nor are we even looking at purchasing a new truck. So I think having some of these questions and concerns that were brought up with the existing, company and the brand, maybe when we do in fact have to buy a new fire truck or a new fire apparatus in the future, whatever council that is may refer back to tonight and ask some questions on their track record and their maintenance records of their apparatuses. Without any questions or comments, no executive session, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay?